So little by little, I'm pecking away at these vise chops. Speaking about pecking away, I have another little something to show you. Let's bring it down. So this guy, I cut it to length. And now I'm just kind of squaring everything up. I got a little bit left to take on this edge right here. And I'll do that in just a second. But as you can see, I brought home my other vise. So on this guy, this little piece right here, this little T section, well, it snapped off. I was trying to punch out on the other one. There was not a roll pin there. It was a just a regular pin, like a taper pin or something. They drove a solid pin through there, which is fine. But when I went to go drive it out, I cracked it because I put the punch on there and I accidentally hit the casting, and it cracked the casting pretty bad enough to where I didn't want to try and repair it or anything. So instead, I just went ahead and made a new one. Now, it's not the exact same design or whatever. I just kind of wanted to mill it out really quick out of some scrap aluminum that I had. And, well, there you have it. That's what I came up with. And I went ahead and pinned. I didn't have any roll pins that would fit the handle, so I went ahead and pinned and peened them. And, yeah. So, as you can tell, I instead of going with the metal washer that comes with these things, I went ahead with this nylon washer, and it seems to be working really, really well. And I put a roll pin through there this time. Be much easier to punch out. So, yeah, everything works nice and smooth. But yeah, this is it was in really super rough shape when I first got it, and the threads are kind of, I mean, they're there. They're a little rough, but you know, they're not brand new or anything. They're old, but everything works and operates just dandy. Well, it's kind of difficult because it's not mounted or anything, but a little stiff actually. That might have something to do with the nylon washer. I might have to put that metal washer back in there. But anyway, I'll put that aside. And I'll try and finish up. I think the grain orientation is this way. Try and finish this guy up. Remember what depth I had this at. And I'm just going to take a little bit off of this guy, and it should be square. Square enough, and you know, these are vise chops after all. It's not like I'm building a masterpiece or anything, but you know me. So first make sure we're square this way, and we're not. Let me make sure I'm not registering because there's still a little bit rough on that side. No, I'm high on this side. This whole side's high. And it's registering that way off of both faces, so. And I'll tell you, like I said at the beginning, I've never really worked a whole lot with ash, and it's not terrible. I've dealt with worse wood than this, but definitely not my favorite. And I'm just trying to be careful here not to take too much, because I don't want to be overcompensating and go too far. See, so right there I'm actually perfect, but so right here I'm good all the way out, but after that it's still a little bit tapered, too high on right here. So I'm just going to come down and come off of it. And right where my blade is, I'll come on my iron, I'll come off of it right where it starts to where I need to. So alright, so now I'm all the way back to here. The problem is that I still have to make sure that this is square this way to this edge. So still a little bit. Just take full length shavings. Make sure it's all good and feathered in. Blended in, however you want to put it. Perfect. Great. Alright, so that's good. And then it looks like I took a little too much off over here. So I'm just kind of taking it all the way down to about 3/4 of it, and then I go to about half, and then this last quarter. And then blend it all in. Perfect. One last sanity check. Good to go. So we're all good and squared here. Now it's time to lay out for the recess. Check what time it is. We might not have time today. 7:30 right now. I've got a little bit of time, but I have to get packed up and everything. I have a 4-day weekend starting tomorrow. So when I get off work tomorrow, I'm gonna go down and pay a buddy of mine, my bro in Montana. I'm gonna pay him a visit, and yeah. And on the way there, I'm gonna hit this sweet this place in Spokane. Guy's selling a ton of stuff from woodworking tools. I'm mainly going there really for to look. He has four anvils, blacksmithing anvils, and a bunch of tools and stuff that I want to get. I want to get it on lockdown. So if they're worth it, I'm going to pick them up while I'm there. So I'm going to basically leave here, go to work in the morning, get off about 10-ish, whatever, and then that way I'm not trying to drive through the night and being all sleepy or whatnot. And then I'll get to Spokane area, hit that place up, and from there, I don't know how long I'm gonna spend there. And then from there, I'm gonna go pay my bro a visit. Stay out there in Montana for a good solid 3 days. And that's kind of what he does for a living, is goes to places like that. So I don't know. It's going to be an interesting 3 days up there in Montana. I got to hit him up, make sure he lines up some stuff, some good stuff, for while I'm there, as far as places to hit and stuff, flea markets, garage sales, yard sales, freaking swap meets, you name it. I want to be there. And but hanging out with my bro Mark, that's what I'm really heading out there for. So Mark, if you're watching, I will see you tomorrow night, and let's get to laying this out. I did have one. I gotta clean off my table here because it was giving me a little bit of a rock. I thought maybe I need to plane down these faces. Yeah, I think I might. Let's come back down and check it out. So I'll check for twist, but I'm also checking just across the face. I don't know if y'all can see that or not. See there we go. Might be a little bit better. And it'll be fine that way. Make sure we're good this way. A little high on the edges, but not terrible. And we'll just go corner to corner, see if there's any majors there, any rocking or anything like that. I don't feel anything. Just maybe a little bit high on the edges, but that's fine. It's going to. It's with this grain, as it settles, with the humidity in the atmosphere inside my house, which is kind of the outside because I leave my window open, my fan running almost all day. But you can see the growth rings right here on the end grain, and these growth rings will tell you exactly how the board's going to settle as it dries. Now, because the growth rings are this way, remember, it's wanting to, if the growth rings look like this, then they're going to want to release this way, right? So, if it's like that, it's going to want to straighten up. So this side and these two edges right here are going to want to try to flare out, which is going to give me a bow on this side. So that's, I know my sides are a little high on that side. So this, I'm expecting to see the center a little bit high. Not necessarily that it has to be, but that's kind of what I'm expecting. That's weird. I must have had something underneath it. I don't have any rock now, and that's kind of one of the really nice things too about having a really nice flat bench, is that I can set a piece on there and kind of hit corner to corner, and if I don't get any wobble, I know I'm flat. I mean, I'm nothing. So that's good. Now, because I know how this is going to settle out, this is going to be my rear chop, the part that's up against the bench that we're going to recess to accept the, I guess you'd call it another housing dado, to accept the part of the vise, the rear part of the vise that's up against the bench. So that will go somewhere in this area. I mean, I've given this a lot of thought, but I haven't really thought it all the way through. I've thought about doing a couple of different things. Either A, cutting an entire notch here and then recessing up to accept the vise, or drilling the 3 holes through the vise to accept the 2 guide rods and the lead screw. The only problem with that is that I have to whittle away the inside here for the vise chop, instead of just being able to cut this and then, you know, split out and pare down. I don't know yet. I haven't really. I think I'm going to stop nuking this out. I'm going to keep it easy, and I'm going to go ahead and cut that out, because I don't think these beards are going to end up being very long anyway. So I think all the layout for the 3 holes would be a little bit of overkill and kind of pointless in the end. So let's go ahead. Since this is going to be since this is going to be up against the bench, which way do I want the grain oriented to settle? Now, it's not going to settle a whole lot, but it will settle. Do I want it like this, where it will flare out here and here towards the bench, and the belly will go to it, or do I want it like that? Well, my first instinct is to do it like this. That way I have full contact. If it does flex out a little bit, I have full contact at the top of the vise where I want it. And I don't know. Sitting thinking about it. Yes, that's exactly what I'm going to do. So I want it flexing like this, with the grain orientation like so that it will release the tension on the top and bottom towards the center of the vise. So, what we can do at this point is we can turn it around, put it in the vise, mark. Well, we don't want to mark just yet because this is going to have a beard. So we need to mark how far down we need to go from the top of the bench to the guide rods. How far down is that depth? And how deep is my vise going to be? Well, it is right at 6 1/4. So 6 1/4. I'll go up to 6 3/8. That'll leave it an 1/8 inch above the top of the vise or the top of the bench to be able to plane down to where it's nice and flush with the bench top. So also, I want. Not only do I want it like this, facing this way, I want the grain orientation facing this way, but I also want to make sure that, right, so as we talked about before, this is the heartwood, the darker stuff, and this lighter stuff is typically a telltale of the sapwood. Now the sapwood kind of goes up into the edges here as well. So that's another reason I want, well, I guess that wouldn't, well, it'll actually be kind of nice because it's a little bit softer. It's going to be a little bit softer than the hardwood, so that'll be good on my part. And it'll give me a nice solid surface up against the side of my bench. But all the strength, there's more sapwood down here than there is up here, and this is where I'm going to be grabbing all of this 6 3/4 or 6 1/4 is all going to be right here. That's all going to be clamping surface. Well, on this side anyway. So we can, let's see, at this point, it's more difficult than you would think trying to talk or think out loud, if you will. So I'm orientating, everything's exactly the way I want. So this is the way my board is going to sit in the vise, just like that. Just double checking. Yes, it's going to flare out this way and this way. I have the least amount of sapwood at the top. All right, so now this is the top. I'll go ahead and mark it. Top, and then I'll mark these R for right and L for left. And that's all I need to give myself orientation. And I'll need to go down. So that's 6 1/4. I'm going to give myself a little room and go to 6 3/8. Make sure that was, yeah. So we'll go to 6 3/8. Right. Now, I'm just going to mark it. Now that is my clamping surface. The beard, now I have to give a little bit of room here for, I have to cut all this out to accept all the rest of the mechanics down below it, the guide rods and lead screw and everything like that. So, I wish this was already set up so I could actually clamp stuff, but it's not, so we got to deal with it. Everything's kind of moving around on me. But that'll give me a good enough line to go to. And the top's going to get planed down anyway. So, that's that. And then I can then come in, make sure. Okay, so it ended up coming in to just under 14 inches after I scored up the edges, which is fine. There's nothing saying that these have to be perfect or anything. So it's just under 14 inches, so half of that, right, so I have 7 in the middle, 7-inch wide vise. And so if you have 14 inches, and the other two edges are going to be just under 3.5 inches on either side. So we just set it at just under 3.5 inches. And go ahead and mark. Now this is just kind of a rough layout. Now I can stick this in the vise, and actually I don't need to go that far. That's what I'm going to need for my inset, but my guide rods are not quite that far. Alright, oh yeah, and doing that, see, that's why I mock it up, because I just set it just under 3 inches, and I set it just under 3.5 inches. But that even is not going to be I think it's easier just to plane these off. Well, it's something that's got a little more grain orientation looks okay. We got most of them down. Alright. So I'm going to go ahead and mark the just under 3.5 mark, actually above this, and sharpen my pencil. So this is just what I'm marking as the inset. Again, a rough guide. And coming down, from the top, that's 2 1/8, so I'll go 2 1/4 and come down from the top. So this roughly is what's going to get chopped out, and then we have to measure in how far in from the sides of my vise are the guide rods, and then give them just a little bit of room. It looks like right at about 1 inch. So it is right at 1 inch. So if it's 1 inch in, then I'll just go 4 1/2 instead of 3 1/2. I'll go 4 1/2 inches in. Here. And this is what's going to be cut out with the saw. Again, this is just rough marks. So this is the top, and this is actually the back, so it's actually going to be oriented like this in the vise. It'll drop down into the vise that way and then suck up against the table. But this part here will be all cut away with a saw. I'll saw down all the way down here, and then I'll just chop that out with a chisel. And then, so all that will be gone. And then this part is going to be inset 1/2 of an inch to accept the rear jaw. And then this whole section here, this whole top, and this whole section right here will be screwed to the apron. So that's how it's going to go. Unfortunately, I do have to stop right here and start packing for my trip. Get cleaned up, pack for my trip. I still have to do a little bit of work in the morning, so that is that. A little bit shorter, 34 minutes.
It's 20 hours.
So yeah, that's that was kind of like real life, right? So I'm sitting here marking away, and you know, I catch myself making my mistakes, but the whole key is to catch yourself making those mistakes before you actually make them. And layout is perfect time, and that's a perfect example of why I mock everything up as best I can. Throw it into the piece, put the piece together as best you can, without drilling, cutting, planing, anything of that nature. That way you know that it's going to give you your desired look or your desired fit. Because if I wouldn't have thrown that in there, you know, my marks would have been off. I would have started cutting it up with my layout knife, and it would have been disaster. I'll do a few other things, right? So like I was measuring in, so now I'll measure straight across my guide rods. To see exactly how much I'm going to need and see if that matches up with my marks. And they don't, so they're off. So I have to redo that too. So yeah, there's you know, trial and error. That's why we you know, measure 3 times, cut once. I think the normal saying is measure twice, cut once, but as you can see, I measured 3 times. I guess I'm special. Anyway, so that's that. I'm going to wrap this up. I can't wait to get finished on this. It's just there's not enough time in the day, not enough hours in the day to get done what I want to get done with this crap hours that we're having to work. Anyway, it's enough complaining. I'm gonna go get cleaned up and pack. And I will probably not see you guys for like 4 or 5 days. Maybe even longer than that. But I'll try and get back on probably when I get back on Sunday. I'll try and work on the chops. See if I can't get a video posted. Should be able to finish this chop up Sunday and start on the other one. The other one's going to be pretty straightforward. So, friends and family, I love you. Everybody else, see you in about 4 or 5 days or something like that.